Hello and welcome to ProtoMet's First Impressions, where I give my thoughts on the first episode of any new tokusatsu show. And today I'm going to be talking about the first episode of GARO Hagane no Tsugu Mono, or Heir to the Steel Armor. First off, let me just say this right away. This show is a sequel to two of the other seasons of GARO. Specifically, Yamiwo Terasu Mono, or the one who shines light in the darkness, or one who shines in the darkness, and Goldstorm Show. So this is part of the Ryuga timeline, not the Koga timeline that the original Garo and Makai Senki were part of. This is a separate timeline, so hopefully you've at least seen those two seasons, and maybe Kami no Kiba Jinga, or Fang of God Jinga. I'm not sure if that is part of that continuity or if it's its own separate continuity that only ties. It's complicated. But before getting into this, you may want to watch those other shows just so that you know who Ryuga is, because this show expects you to already know who he is. But more importantly, this season looks like it's going to be focusing on Hagane, which were low-class Makai Knight that were introduced towards the end of Makai Senki. They're the knights that aren't strong enough or notable enough to be given their own distinct title, like say Garo or Zero or all the other ones. all the other ones. All the other ones that don't have their own show. But, so yeah, the episode starts off with Zaruba basically giving a brief description of what the Hagane are, in case anybody forgot, like I did. I forgot what Hagane were until this description. But then it goes to a scene where a normal person is being hunted by a horror, as you would expect. And then Ryuga shows up to fight the horror, and it's a pretty good action scene. Ryuga manages to seal the gate, preventing the horror from escaping back into the Makai, and so the horror transforms from its humanoid form into its horror form, which still looks incredibly humanoid because it's still played by a human actress in a costume. But, and this is something that I've so far noticed with the three monsters that I have seen the designs of, the two in this episode and the one in the next episode preview. You can, at least in this one, you can see quite a bit of the actress's face. But the other two that I noticed used like facial prosthetics instead of like static masks to allow the actors to actually emote the monsters that they're playing. I love that. I actually really love that. I like that. I'm looking forward to see how far they go with that. I hope they don't switch over to static masks and instead just keep these expressive faces, because that's a good design aesthetic, and it's a lot better than just CGIing on a predator face like they did with Yamiwo. That shit was distracting. But we get a good fight scene. The horror detaches its horns and turns them into weapons. It fights against Ryuga, who ends up winning after transforming into Garo, as is expected. And then when he's leaving, he's approached by a young Makai priestess who invites him to the city of Kriya City? I might be misremembering the name. I'm pretty sure Kriya was part of the name. But apparently this is something weird is going on in this city where sure there is plenty of Inga in the series, in this city. Like, for context, Inga is basically negative vibes that are usually what attract horrors to humans. And the more Inga a person has, the more susceptible they are to being possessed by the horrors. But apparently in this city, even people with only only trace amounts of Inga are more likely to be attacked by horrors, as opposed to the ones that are steeped in Inga. That's a problem. And while they're searching the city, this one construction worker learns from some Yakuza toughs that he's about to take the fall for a construction project he was on that used substandard materials, which the Yakuza told him to use, but they had also told him that they wouldn't be caught. But now that they've been found out, they're laying all the blame on him and wiping their hands free. So time kind of stops for him, and he's approached by this red-haired, mysterious woman who basically convinces him to kill a couple of the Yakuza with hammers before he even has a chance to realize what's going on. But he's not displeased with it and ends up chasing the third Yakuza out. And it's at this point that he transforms into this like lion warrior with a hammer looking horror. Really nice design. I love the design. Again, using facial prosthetics to give the more monstrous face while still being incredibly expressive. This results in a fantastic fight scene between Ryuga and the horror that ultimately ends with midway through the fight, the young Makai priestess tries to join the fight with some impressive martial arts moves that don't really do a whole lot, much to her surprise. But she does use some spells and defensive abilities. So again, great fight scenes. The Garo franchise is really known for having some incredibly fantastic fight scenes. And this one, the ones that are on display in this episode are lacking any overt special effects. Like, of course, you got like the Makai spells, but for the most part, it's actors fighting actors in incredibly well choreographed fight scenes. But it ends up that the horror ends up fleeing, only to then be confronted by a new Makai knight who transforms into a Hagane and defeats it. And this is probably the Hagane we're going to be giving a bit more focus on in this season. And this episode just kind of ends there with him with the young Makai priestess basically introducing Ryuga introducing the Hagane to Ryuga. Soma is the guy's name, so looking forward to that. Again, I'm incredibly glad that Garo is back after being absent for a number of years. The last season was Versus Road a couple of years ago, which told its own story. Wasn't much of anything after that, for the most part. So I'm glad that it's back. I'm looking forward to checking out this season. It is currently, at least the first episode is currently available on YouTube with subs. However, fair warning, I have heard that the subtitles for this may have been AI or machine translated, and I have noticed that they aren't as good as they potentially could be. So you may want to wait for a fan sub release. Also, I'm not entirely sure if this episode will actually stay up, because I do know that the channel that it's on, which is dedicated to Garo, and it's the official Garo YouTube channel, does have episodes of the other seasons, but they've only got like 2 episodes of each season, except for, I think, Gold Show Storm, or Gold Storm Show, which I think they have the first 2 episodes, and then the last episode, I think, as a lead up to this, but I don't know if those have subs. They might not. It's weird. I'll put the link to the first episode of this show down in the description, and I do recommend checking it out. So, subtitle oddness aside, this is a great show. It's definitely worth a watch. Or at the very least, I'm looking forward to seeing how things turn out. So yeah, get a bit of lore dump with the reveal that this city that they're in may be housing a gate of destruction, which I guess is a sort of doomsday gate. Not much is really explained about what the gate of destruction is, other than that it's a really bad thing as opposed to the normal horror gates, which are already bad things, but this is like bigger bad things. But yeah, looking forward to this. So check it out. And until next time, I'm ProtoMet. See ya.